Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James.
I'll be watching my favorite kill counts right I meet.
Hey Janice, and today we're looking at The Shining, released in 1980. I don't know how else to begin this episode than by admitting that I'm a little intimidated to be doing it. The Shining is easily one of the biggest horror movies of all time.
Here's
Although
Johnny.
it had a mixed response when it first came out, even earning a couple of Razzie nominations for Worst Actress and Worst Director. The Shining was quickly reevaluated by critics and is frequently found at or near the top of lists of the greatest horror movies of all time. Shit, it's even preserved by the Library of Congress. Based on Stephen King's third novel, which was published in 1977, The Shining's big screen adaptation was co-written, produced, and directed by one of the most influential filmmakers who ever lived, Stanley Kubrick. Or Kubrick, I've heard it both ways. Kubrick's filmography is basically a parade of classics, with recognizable masterpieces nearly as acclaimed as they are diverse in genre.
To say he was a great craftsman is to seriously understate something.
His influence is everywhere in cinema and popular culture at large, so it's no surprise that his one and only horror movie is consistently considered one of the best, especially since it was based on a story by Stephen King, someone just as singular and acclaimed in his own art field. King famously disliked Kubrick's treatment of his story, and although his criticism has tempered in recent years, to be honest, I think the guy just likes everything nowadays. Last I heard, he still preferred the 1997 ABC miniseries version, which he wrote the teleplay for Mick Garris to direct. I only mention that version to let you know I can't cover it, at least not anytime soon. Thing's 4.5 hours long, give me a break. But King is in the minority when it comes to his appraisal of this film. The Shining is one of the most frequent answers I hear when I ask people what their favorite horror movie is. And although some may find that answer cliche, I'm not surprised that so many people were affected by this beautiful, haunting, epic film. I'm gonna try to do my best to do the movie justice in this episode, but keep in mind that this is probably the most dissected and analyzed film to ever be on the Kill Count. I mean, there's a whole damn documentary called Room 237 that covers people's interpretations and theories about the movie, some of which link it to Native American genocide, others to the Holocaust, and one to a conspiracy theory that claims Stanley Kubrick helped fake the moon landing. I'll tell you what I can about The Shining, but we'll barely be scratching the surface. At the very least, I can tell you how many people die in it, so let's get to the kills.
About time.
The movie begins with gliding shots filmed in Montana's Glacier National Park, while The Shining's main title theme plays.
Yeah, I'll be reacting. I'm gonna be reacting to my favorite kill count videos. Make that meat.
This foreboding hymn of synth sounds was composed by Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind, and the tune grows in creepiness as a single yellow car makes its way to the isolated Overlook Hotel in the Rocky Mountains. Now, while King was
That's a lot of
inspired to
vehicles
write
for
the
one
Shining
hotel.
during an off-season stay at the
That's
Stanley
abandoned.
Hotel in Colorado, these wide exterior shots depict the Timberline Lodge in Oregon. However, close-ups of the hotel's exterior shown later were all done on a set built in the UK. So in real life, there isn't just one hotel that you can call the Shining Hotel, especially since the insides were all custom-built sets based on various hotel interiors from around the world. Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson, in possibly his most famous role, despite having a career chock full of them, meets with hotel manager Stuart Holman ahead of his new job to be the Overlook's winter caretaker during the off-season. This weirdo Bill Watson is there too, but he doesn't really say or do anything. Maybe he dreamed of meeting Jack and found him to have that look you very rarely find, the haunting kind. Jack, a teacher and aspiring writer, assures Ullman he'll have no problem being isolated in the hotel over the coming winter months.
Well, that just happens to be exactly what I'm looking for.
Plenty of time to get some writing done. Really go crazy with it, you know? He's not even deterred when he finds out that the last dude who had the job, a guy named Grady, had a bit of a mental breakdown and took it out on his wife and 2 daughters.
Ran amok and,
That sordid history doesn't bode well for Jack's family, who's going to be staying at the hotel with him during the winter. His wife, Wendy, played by Shelley Duvall, tries to get their son Danny excited about it, but he's pretty trepidatious because Tony doesn't want to go. Oh, who's Tony? He's Danny's little friend who lives in his mouth.
I don't want to bother Mrs. Torrance.
How come you don't want to go?
I just don't.
He just doesn't want to, Wendy. God! Tony shows Danny why he doesn't want to go in a series of psychic images that include a river of blood coming out of the hotel's elevator and some creepy-ass little girls. Spooky! After Danny's little scare in the bathroom, he's seen by an unnamed doctor who's given a heaping dose of backstory courtesy of Wendy. Wendy mentions that some time ago, her husband Jack came home drunk and accidentally dislocated Danny's shoulder by pulling him away from a mess too hard.
It's just the sort of thing you do 100 times with a child, you know, in the park or in the streets.
That lady's
This
weird.
particular occasion, my husband just
This
used
lady
too
is
much
weird.
strength and he injured Danny's arm.
The doctor seems
No.
rightfully concerned about the potential abuse, but Wendy
Posting
says
a
her
video
local
of me
summer
reacting to my
got
favorite kill
Jack to stop
counts.
drinking.
So no, I'm not shutting
Have
up.
you had any alcohol in 5 months?
The Torrance family makes the long drive to the Overlook Hotel on its last day of the season, where Stuart Ullman and Bill Watson.
Since now I know how to upload videos to my YouTube
As soon
channel,
as
I'm
Jack's
gonna be
done
doing
with
that now.
Playgirl, anyway, the tour takes the Torrances and the viewer all over the hotel in long, unbroken shots. And a close examination of the layout reveals that some of it just doesn't make sense. The best example I can show you is that this window in Stuart Ullman's office shouldn't logically be there. If you follow Jack as he walks towards it, you can see there's actually a hallway back there. But once Jack gets into the office, there's a window on that wall looking outside. The illogical layout of the Overlook is the subject of countless theories, and if you're interested, you can watch a video about it made by Rob Ager of Collative Learning. It's pretty interesting, and the prevailing theory as to why the hotel's floor plan doesn't make sense is because it adds to the nightmarish and surreal quality of the setting. You'll find that people
Wow.
are pretty reluctant to say that any apparent mistakes in a Kubrick movie are unintentional. He was that particular of a filmmaker. Jack and Wendy are shown their apartment within the hotel, which has 2 rooms, a kitchen area, and a bathroom.
Well, it's very, homey.
They're also shown the giant hedge maze outside, as well as the snowcat they'll have to use when the white stuff covers the ground. Inside the Overlook's game room, Danny plays darts for a bit before meeting some potential new friends. Oh, that's so nice for you, Danny. Now you'll have other kids to play. Oh, nope, never mind. They're walking away. Damn, that's gonna kill this kid's self-esteem. The tour continues in the ballroom, where Ullman mentions that the bar is emptied of all alcohol for the off-season. Jack says that's just fine, though.
We don't drink.
The Torrances are introduced to the hotel's head chef, Dick Halloran, played by Scatman Crothers, and he takes Wendy and Danny on a tour of their enormous kitchen. After showing them the walk-in freezer full of meat and the pantry full of dry goods, Halloran offers Danny a psychic icy treat.
How'd you like some ice cream, Doc?
Hell yeah, Doc wants some ice cream, that's what's up. Over a couple of bowls of ice cream treats, Halloran tells Danny how he was able to talk to him brain to brain, something he and his grandma used to do all the time.
She called it shiny.
Dick says that the story's titular psychic power is shared by all sorts of people, even though some
Dang.
don't acknowledge or recognize it. Danny says his mouthmate Tony told him that the Overlook is super scary, and Dick admits that it does have some bad juju thanks to its past, which has left a sort of lingering presence here.
You know, Doc, when something happens, it can leave a trace of itself behind. Say, like, if someone burns toast.
Now, you may have heard of Stanley Kubrick's tendency to get a ridiculous number of takes from his actors.
I always said, you know, when you work for Stanley, it removes the main problem for the actor, which is pressure. You know, he's not going to stop until it's exactly the way he wants it, right, wrong, or indifferent. It is going to be right.
We're talking dozens and dozens of takes, even if they did everything perfectly within the first few tries.
He's going to do 60, 70 tries to see what happens, even if take 5 is a terrific one.
The reason I bring this up now is because this ice cream scene had one shot, I'm not sure which one, that Kubrick did either 88 or 148 takes of. Accounts differ on the number. Scatman Crothers, who was more of a musician than a trained actor, couldn't handle it, although apparently 6-year-old Danny Lloyd was just fine.
Scatman said, Stanley, I can't do it anymore. Danny was there.
So as a result, we didn't feel like we were torturing him, and therefore we could do it and not feel like we were abusing a minor.
Before their conversation ends, Danny asks Halloran what's in room 237, something Tony told him about. After a quick little fright chart, Halloran tells Danny there ain't nothing in that room, but stay the fuck away from it anyway. A month later, the Overlook Hotel is a lonely place indeed, but at least Danny's making good use of all the empty space, riding his big wheel around in iconic close-to-the-ground Steadicam shots. The Shining was only the 7th movie to use the new Steadicam stabilizing tool, which allows a camera operator to get smooth shots without the usual shakiness of a handheld camera. For The Shining, the Steadicam was operated by Garrett Brown, the dude who invented it, and his long fluid tracking shots are part of this film's memorable iconography. This scene also has some awesome sound design as Danny rides over rugs and hardwood floor. Unlike Danny, Jack's not making the most of his time here. His typewriter has been left unattended as he tosses a tennis ball around the hotel. When he grows bored playing wall ball, he takes a gander at a model of the hedge maze that Wendy and Danny are currently running around in. The maze was an impressive feat for production to build and was so big that the cast and crew wound up getting lost for real in it.
We could never find out where we were. We were always lost. We always had to shout and have somebody work their way into the diagram and get us the hell out of there.
In fact, Stanley challenged him. It was too easy, and he actually got lost in it. We challenged him. We put him in there one Saturday morning, and he couldn't find his way out.
Also impressive is this overhead shot of the maze model that shows Wendy and Danny walking around in the center. This was the only shot that wasn't accomplished in camera. To achieve it, they built the center of the maze near a tall apartment building, then shot down from the roof as Shelley Duvall and Danny Lloyd walked around in it. They then matted that shot perfectly into an overhead shot of the model. The end result shows just how big the Overlook's hedge maze is. You definitely wouldn't want to get lost in there on a cold winter night. Tuesday card! Not sure how many days or weeks have gone by, but at least Jack seems to have finally found a bit of writing momentum. Good for him. Not so good for Wendy, who stops by for some chit-chat, only to find an angry shit Jack who yells at her for distracting him. Jeez, this is what he's like sober? She agrees to leave him alone, but he doesn't let her go without one last verbal kick to the ass.
Why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here?
Okay, that's alright, Wendy. You should probably go hang out with Danny anyway, because he's getting so lonely riding his trike around that he's considering hitting up room 237 and making a play date with the Grady Ghost Gals. 2 days later, a big old snowstorm has finally brought winter's wrath to the Overlook, and something tells me Jack is not too excited to go shovel the sidewalks out there. But damn can that dude wear a turtleneck. As the days go by, the storm gets so bad that the hotel's phone lines go down, leaving a radio as the only connection to the outside world. But that's kind of fun, because when you use it, you get to say over a bunch of times. Over.
Boy, this storm is really something, isn't it? Over.
Over and out. Danny's triking through the hallway finally gets him in trouble when he rounds a corner to find the ghosts of Grady's slaughtered daughters waiting for him at the end of it.
Come and play with us, Danny.
Sure, yeah. Play what? Oh.
Ever and ever and ever.
I don't think my mom will let me play Bloody Axe Lie Around for that long. Sorry. Things are getting weird in a hurry at this hotel, although Jack says he's a big fan of the place.
I wish we could stay here forever.
Danny finally breaks his promise to Halloran and walks into room 237, all while his dad takes a snooze at his writing desk. Aw, is he dreaming about being a dog? How cute!
I dreamed that I killed you and Danny.
Oh, no, it was about murdering his family. Danny returns to his parents,
boy.
sporting a new bruise on his neck, and Wendy immediately accuses Jack of being responsible for it. Why would she jump to a conclusion like that?
I dreamed that I killed you and Danny.
Oh, yeah, that.
My husband just used too much strength and he injured Danny's arm.
And also the shoulder thing. Never mind. She runs away from Jack, and since he feels wrongly accused, he takes his frustrations out by doing some freestyle dancing in the hallway. Hey man, why don't you pull up a chair to this empty bar and take a load off those crazy feet?
My goddamn soul. Just a glass of beer.
Sell your soul for a beer, you say? Well, I've got good news for you, Jack. This here is Lloyd, and souls are legal tender for his tabs. Jack gets a bourbon on the rocks and tosses away his 5-month chip in one gulp. It gets him feeling real loosey-goosey to the point where he's calling Wendy a sperm bank and a bitch and complaining about how she won't forgive him for hurting Danny that one time. That's when Wendy finds him sitting at the bar all alone, and she tells him that Danny's neck bruise came from a woman in a room upstairs.
Which room was it?
Dog, you know what fucking room it was. Although, fun fact, in the book, the room number was 217, the same room King stayed in at the Stanley Hotel when he was inspired to write The Shining. The Timberline Lodge, the Oregon hotel used for the wide exterior shots, requested the room number be changed, since they actually had a room 217, but not a 237. Inside room 237, Jack finds a woman sitting in the tub, and she naked. I am Jack's slowly blooming excitement. But don't get too cocky, Mr. Torrance, because things aren't always as they appear to be. For instance, this young necky woman is actually an old necky woman, which wouldn't necessarily be so bad if not for all that rotting skin back there. Oh, and that laugh. Yeah, don't come at me with that laugh, lady. Meanwhile, from his fly-ass home in Miami, Dick Halloran has a premonition that leaves him with a terrified look on his face. This wordless zoom-in on Dick being scared was another one that Kubrick shot an unholy amount of time. 60 is the number I've heard. It resulted in Scatman actually crying, poor dude. His in-movie terror doesn't come from an obsessive director, though. It's more the result of some kind of psychic connection with Danny, the spittling boy wonder there, who that night lies in bed and sees images of red rum written on a door. Well, that's not so scary. Oh, and the elevator full of blood again. That'll spook ya! Jack returns to their apartment and tells Wendy he didn't see anything in room 237. Haha, Jack, don't be ashamed of your interest in guilt. Wendy says it might be a good idea for them to leave the hotel and head back home. But boy, oh boy, does Jack not like the sound of that, and he berates her for even suggesting it.
I have let you fuck up my life so far, but I am not gonna let you fuck this up.
He leaves in a huff and feels sorry for himself in the kitchen before rounding the corner to find that the hotel's throwing a full-on pity party for him. It's a swanky soiree in the ballroom where Lloyd the bartender says the drinks are on the house.
Your money's no good here.
Well, some of them are on the house, and some of them are on Jack. Oh no, better ask Jeeves there how to get liqueur out of corduroy. The waiter takes Jack into the bathroom to clean him up nice and proper, and it's there that Jack learns this dude is Delbert Grady, the former caretaker of the Overlook. What was that guy's deal again?
You, chopped your wife and daughter up into little bits.
Oh, that's right, he was the axe guy. But Grady denies the charge and tells Jack that he's the hotel's caretaker.
You've always been the caretaker. I should know, sir. I've always been here.
Whoa, that's some heady shit there, Delbert. Grady tells Jack that Danny is trying to bring Dick Halloran to the Overlook, although he definitely does not refer to Dick by his name. And he says that Jack had better make sure Danny stops misbehaving. He can't go running through the hotel with a pickle in his mouth, you know? Grady's daughters tried to pull that shit once, and you know what Grady did about it?
I corrected them, sir. And when my wife tried to prevent me from doing my duty, I corrected her.
Oh, damn, Mr. Torrance is breaking out his red pack, because it's correcting time. First thing that needs correcting, the hotel's radio. I give you an F radio for fucked. Back in their apartment unit, Wendy is planning her and Danny's escape when she hears her son screaming from his room in a bizarre voice.
Red Rob! Red Rob!
I've always found that little fucker immensely scary while he's screaming like that, and while he's kicking his Tony thing into overdrive.
Danny's gone away, Mrs. Torrance.
These people need the D ASAP, but with the Overlook's phone and radio down, Dick's got no choice than to take a plane to Denver and rent himself a snowcat to prowl on over to the hotel. Wendy takes a baseball bat to go see if her husband is still acting all a fool. Well, he's nowhere to be found, but now you can finally read the masterpiece he's been typing away at. Let's see what it's about. Seems a little too existential for my liking. Oh man, and can you say repetitive? Hire an editor, dude. Jack finds Wendy peeping at his work, but he's not exactly in the mood for any constructive criticism. He is in the mood, however, to discuss the way they're raising their child.
I think you have some very definite ideas about what should be done with Danny. and I'd like to know what they are.
She tells them they need to take Danny to a doctor, but Jack just mocks her and yells at her again for interfering with his very important caretaking job. He grows more and more unhinged as he stalks her up the stairs in another scene that was shot a ridiculous number of times. I read that Kubrick did 127 takes of it. It was just one part of filming The Shining that left Shelley Duvall a total wreck. Kubrick was a consummate filmmaker, and from my research, seemed like a super cool dude to 6-year-old Danny Lloyd during production. But his relationship with Shelley Duvall was borderline abusive. In order to get a frantic, hysterical performance out of her, he pushed her to her emotional limit by being mean to her on set and having crew members